Hi YouTube, this is Jonathan at the Piano Lesson. Back once again for another exciting edition. I thought we'd spend some time together and kind of shoot the breeze. I have a number of bits of information to share that I find interesting. First thing I wanted to share is that for the longest period of time, I've been using earbuds that I bought a bazillion years ago at Radio Shack, believe it or not. And I lost them. And they weren't that great. And I think I might own another pair. I think I own several earbud pairs. One was a J-Lab, I think I picked up at Best Buy, and it was serviceable. And then one thing actually I liked about my old earbuds is that they didn't get tangled, which I thought was fantastic. And then actually the J-Labs, they were like the Altex were like a cloth type wire, which was probably the best. And the J-Labs, although they were still a kind of rubberized wire, they actually didn't tangle. I was kind of surprised. And I did have a Samsung pair at some point, which kept falling out of my ears, and they sounded okay. They were somewhat molded to my ear. Anyway, I bought the bullet. I bought the bullet. No, I bit the bullet. I didn't buy. I did. I bit it and I bought it. And I got a Shure, a pair of Shure dangly. Look at these things. Look at these, and they're so odd. I mean, does that focus? That probably doesn't focus, but they look like, I don't know, like mushrooms or something. They're kind of enormous, and they do come with various sized foam and rubberized foam ear inserts that you can use. I will just cut to the chase and say that these sound amazing. They might be the best sounding earphones I've ever used in my life. These are the, where's my box here? Do I have my box somewhere? Where's my box? Well, I don't have my box handy, but these are the 215s. And this particular iteration of Shure 215, which you can find on their website for $89, actually comes with the type of cord that one would use in a cell phone. You know, has a little, actually a microphone in here and volume control remote. There's also a little switch on the back. You probably can't see it, but there's a little switch in the back that you would position depending if you had a iPhone or an Android phone to use with it. And it also has a little lanyard, I guess, I don't know, that you can, but I will tell you that if you get a pair of these, you'll hate them. Because they're strange. They're a strange animal. They're strange to put in your ears, and they wrap around. They wrap around the back of your ears. You have to kind of shape them. Actually, it would go that way. Yeah, it would go, and you can see they also pivot. They turn here like this. So you have to get this hook in back of your ear, and then pivot it so it's properly situated. In tiny itsy bitsy letters, it does tell you which is right and which is left, and I can see that this is right. I was a little suspicious that these might be knockoffs because typically you would see a red or a blue dot, the red dot indicating the right and the blue indicating the left on here. And they actually come apart. You can put different cables. You can buy different cables for them. And when you put them in, though, you actually just kind of press them. You put it over the back of your ear, and you just press them in. I'm not quite doing it right. And this actually, the way to tell is that this little wire here is going to kind of point up into this part of the ear. That's kind of how I tell, because it's kind of hard to see. And I may or may not be successful getting these in. I don't know. It seems like I can. Let's see. Oh yeah, well, I can get it. Yeah, I think so. Okay, there we go. So it looks it looks like that. Okay, and there's that I was talking about right there. That little thing that you can get in, and you could actually sort of twist them too a bit, just to kind of make sure they're in right. But once they're in, they really do block out sound. They block out outside sound. They're very comfortable. You can even sleep with them almost because they're kind of flush to your ear. But the bass in particular, and the clarity is just astounding. I mean, it's really great. And I got these on eBay pretty cheap. I think I got them for like $39. So usually when you get stuff on eBay, you got to watch it, right? Because you can get bogus stuff. Who knows if this is bogus or not or what. I know that these are made for the Chinese market because there's a label on it and it says CHU, and that stands for the Chinese market. And I actually called Shure and kind of confirmed some of that. I still might just take some pictures of the stuff and email it to them, upload it to their website to see if these are actually, rip-offs or not. I don't think they are, though. There are guys on the internet that kind of walk you through and show the differences between the knockoffs and the real ones. But I don't know. I think they're fine. It comes with this little pouch, like the pouch that's not a knockoff. I think supposedly this carabiner, if it's closed, would be on the opposite side and it would be rounder. And I don't know. They say certain things. This is where I put the extra foam earpieces. The rubberized ones are for blocking out sound more, and the foam is for hearing a little more ambient noises. I'm not knocked out by the cable. It's pretty decent. I don't think it's going to tangle too much. It is kind of awkward to put in the case. The case is really tiny. But boy, if you really want good sound and you're on the road, yeah, I was stunned. And I know guys pay a lot more money, than this, I mean, under $100, certainly, and I'm not a wireless guy so much. I like wired things. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because if you're on the fence and you're kind of wondering, hey, what do these things sound like? Yeah, just try it out. They're pretty amazing. They're pretty nice. Had my gig at Marco's, went really well, and people are super nice there, and they fed me, which was great. Had a beautiful piece of salmon, and I brought an extra keyboard, so now I have my Yamaha MX-49, which I have for my flute sound, exclusively for my flute sound, and my Yamaha 73 key piano, weighted key piano, which I have a split key, so I play upright bass in the left hand and vibes in the right hand. I really love the vibe sound on it. It's fantastic. Has a good Fender Rhodes sound too, but I don't know. There's something just that there's more sustain in the vibe sound. And my Korg drum machine, which sounds great. And I bring 2 amps. I have a Galleon Kruger, which just has a bass amp, which has a 112 in it. And I have the vibes and bass going through that. And then the drum machine's going through my acoustic image amp, which has a 110 and a mid-range speaker. It's like a 5-inch speaker, which I really wish it would stop making its crackling noise. There's some kind of crackling noise. I took it in to get looked at and fixed and paid a lot of money to get it looked at. I think what I have to do is maybe I'm going to get like one of those L-shaped cables, and I'm going to use that to put into the amp, because that way I won't bump it, risk bumping it with my elbow or something. It'll just be lying flush. And I know guitar players like to use those for their guitars or whatever, but I think I'm going to try that. And in fact, I went to the music store looking for them, and the guy behind me asked what size cable I wanted, and I told him about 10 feet, and he hands me the package, and I pointed out that it only came in meters. And he just sort of stood there staring, and I told him I was joking. And there was a guy next to me who sort of broke up into laughter, and turned out he was an engineer, so that's why he appreciated the joke. Anyway, so a couple things I thought it'd be fun to talk about. A little bit about technique. So I had a wonderful classical piano teacher named Gary Kirkpatrick, who passed away not too long ago. And his technique was just beyond compare. I mean, he could really play. There was nothing that he couldn't play. And that's kind of like a double negative, isn't it? It's like nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. But he could play anything. How's that? And I had the good fortune of studying with this man and trying my best to follow his instructions. But, playing the piano can be very counterintuitive in a lot of respects. It's this cookie machine, and to try to inculcate some of the sensations, some of the physical sensations that we need to get used to, can take some time, and there's differing opinions on it, of course. But I will share with you, the big thing, the big thing, believe it or not, wasn't so much what to do with your fingers, is so much what to do with me in particular, was what to do with your back and shoulders, to really try to get your shoulders down and back, okay? Kind of like, I remember I had a physical therapist tell me that your shoulder blades are supposed to feel like you're going in your back pocket, okay? And then, of course, squeezing the shoulder blades too, all right? And kind of making sure that, you have that sensation. And that's a whole nother subject, which I won't really get into. It takes a lot of years. For me, it's a struggle. But for some people, they just have great posture, and, but over a period of time, doing various exercises and stretches and so forth, and I can kind of develop one's body awareness, and it becomes easier and easier and easier over time. But when you're sitting at the keyboard, we used to do exercises where we would kind of, first of all, he would tell me that the sensation, it's more like if you take your forearm and you like pull it, pushing a drawer in and out, almost like taking that form and rubbing it, kind of sliding on your thighs, okay? So your weight is going forward and back, not this, right, but forward and back. And it was the sensation of doing a push-up on your fingertips, okay? Kind of doing a push-up on your fingertips. Now I'm doing this push-up against, this is called the fall board on the piano. Why do they call it a fall board? Because it falls, it's a board, and it falls, right, and it covers the keys. And this particular one is nice, it just kind of covers the keys, and, but put that back. So we would do things like I would take like my pinky, and I would put the other fingers on the fall board, and I'll do it with this hand, you might see it better. And I would just kind of control the key, trying to control the key. So if you listen carefully, I'm not letting the key all the way up, and I'm not pushing it all the way down. I'm just kind of playing it in the tone spot and repeating it. So what does that do? Well, it helps you develop independence and awareness. And you do that with each finger. So you can do that with the second finger. You do that with your second finger. And you can kind of nudge the key with your finger. One of the tricks, one of the little sensation was that, to feel like you're tossing your finger in the key. That's very different than what we're typically taught, where you're not using it like a club. You're not bashing the key in with your finger, but you're kind of tossing the finger into the key at the first joint, and feeling that articulation and control and repetition. Now I'm repeating one note, and I really like that exercise. I'm using the pedal too, but just I could do without the pedal. But repeating the key with one finger, and now I'm switching. I'm going from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, 2, 3, and you really can't tell the difference when I change my fingertips. See? Just rhythmically. So how do you develop that? Well, I will tell you in general, right, when you do repetition, when you repeat a key, it's typically better to use different fingers. It's physically easier. This is 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 4, 3, 2, or I guess I played two fours. I went 5, 4, 4, 3, 2 instead of using the thumb. My ear did that for me. It's easy to articulate if you use different fingers, and it tends to sound more musical because if you use the same finger, it can sound a bit wooden. Now I'm exaggerating that wooden, that kind of repetitive sound, right? If you do repeat the key, it's nicer if you can perhaps move your wrist around or move the arm so that you don't become stiff or you feel like you're restricted, right? You don't want to seize up, right? But doing that exercise where you're kind of stretching here, right, and you're repeating the key here. Now, very interesting. I will share with you a little bit of a personal thing, without revealing too much. Most of what I do now is I used to teach piano all the time. I teach less and less piano now because most of what I do is I am a caregiver for an elderly relative who's 91, and I also used to do a lot of playing, and the opportunities to play are not so much these days. And usually, if you want to be a performer, you pretty much just got to live out of a suitcase. That's what you have to do. So anyway, when you're 91, I will just tell you, if you're lucky enough to live to be 91, because only 0.6% of the world's population will live to be, or at least in the United States, will live to be 91. And being 91 or experiencing what it's like to be 91, no one knows what that's like. It's almost like going to the moon, okay? Everyone wants to, I want to live to be old, yeah. But you know what? You don't have no idea what it's like when you're 91. I mean, it's almost like you're another human being. And so what I'm experiencing is quite fascinating and quite an education. So one of the things that happens when you get older is that your muscles get weaker, which is why it's so important to absolutely positively use every opportunity to use your body and exercise and walk and climb stairs and do whatever you can. If you go to the gym, that's even better, right? But it's really important. And there are exercises that you can do also to maintain your ability not to have to run to the bathroom when nature calls all the time. You know, those muscles get weaker. And so I recently heard a physician, therapist, talk about how to develop those muscles. But rather than developing the muscle, in other words, we always think in terms of, I'm going to use the muscle and get stronger. No, the first thing you have to do is make sure that you stretch. Why is that? Because if your muscles are constricted, and I'm leading up to why this is important for piano technique, okay? How is incontinence related to piano technique? I'll tell you. If you stretch your muscles, right, you will be assured that you will use the full capacity of the muscle, right? Not just a portion of that muscle. So in effect, as you stretch, you become stronger. Okay, that's brilliant. Now, so the first thing I do is start out with stretching exercises. And the same thing is true with the piano too. And there is kind of, and you can write in and correct me if I'm wrong, but we think of this. I have this kind of stereotypical idea of what a Russian piano technique is like, which is like very high fingers and stretching the fingers. Sometimes when we learn to play in the beginning, we really stretch the fingers, and play these really high fingered scales, really stretch and really stretch, Well, what I imagine what that does is that it does two things. One, it helps to develop independence, right? But two, it assures that the muscles, right, will be working at their full capacity, because what can happen is, right, you start to develop a claw, and if your hand is starting to become crippled in that way, then you need to stop doing whatever you're doing. It's pretty important. I had one teacher that gave me some stretching exercises, which I actually thought were really valuable, where you just sort of take your hand, this webbing of the hand can stretch quite a bit, and you can just put it against the keyboard and kind of stretch. I'll do it this way just so you can see a little better, but kind of doing these little finger splits, right? So that's kind of what it would look like, doing it in each finger, all right? And in between each one, you kind of close your hand, but it's a little easier to do it here, or you could do it here, I suppose, right? But doing that little finger split to keep your hand supple. There were other exercises that I had a physical therapist show me. One was this, like kind of doing that, and going kind of like that, right, and holding it and relaxing. That kind of creeped me out, frankly. I mean, that's, if you're stiff, I don't want to hurt anything, but it's actually really important to stretch that. And I think the other one we had this one, and then I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I think it was like this. I did with the wrist going forward like that. But that that can be very important. Feeling that stretch, so that your fingers are, you don't ever want to feel that your hand, your arm, your forearm feels like tied in knots. I have to constantly work on that myself, and it's typically the right hand, because the right hand does in many ways more work than the left hand, right? It's just more notes. My left hand I don't really have that issue with, but the right hand I find I need to stretch a bit more. But practicing, so how could you apply this? Well, practicing scales so that you're repeating one note, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can even do it slower, right? You can do it slower. It doesn't have to be that fast. But playing in what's called the tone spot. You're not all the way down and you're not all the way up. You're right in there, and you have a continuous tone. As you're not doing. You could do that, right? I guess you could make them a little bit more disconnected. Each note of the scale. It's honestly, in many ways, it's a much better way to practice, because it allows you to dwell on one note of a scale. Now, because I'm playing a C scale, and that's the most challenging, right? But there are other scales that are more challenging, right? I mean, there's, scales that use more sharps or flats, perhaps. I think the A's and the E's are the trickiest. A major, E major, A flat major, E flat major. Those tend to be the trickier ones. Why is that? Well, I'm talking about major scales, of course. Well, C is all white keys, which presents its own problems, but you don't have to worry about black keys, certainly. And the scales that have one black key or two black keys, those are a little more manageable, like G major and F major, or D major, which has two sharps, and B flat major, which has two flats. Actually, B flat, even though it has two flats, the fingering on that is funky, so we'll set that aside. And then there are 3 scales that use all 5 black keys. Those are the enharmonic keys. That's B major or C flat, F sharp or G flat, and D flat or C sharp, right? But you're using all the black keys, and so the trick to those is knowing what white keys to use. There's 2 white keys that are different, And B major is super easy because B is a white key, okay? Hope you're following this. Hope you're taking notes. So to me, the trickier ones are the E's and the A's, and the A flats and E flats. The 3 sharps, 3 flats, 4 sharps, 4 flats. But there's minor scales too. There's all kinds of minor scales and modes and various things that we're always not familiar with it. So just giving yourself time to repeat that key, and then what's the difference between playing slow and fast? The difference is that you just remove the repetitions. So rather than playing 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you play, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also do 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter that I'm not using typical fingers that I would use to play a scale and connect. And then you snip out, so now it's not 4 notes, now it's 3 notes or 2 notes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1. Right? And you really do a deep dive on the scale. We're kind of running out of time, so I'm probably going to have to skedaddle at some point soon. I did want to touch on some nifty tetrachord ideas, different ways to memorize the tetrachords. There were some wonky tetrachords, the major, minor, Phrygian, and harmonic. Those are the ones we typically talk about, but there are other ones too. There's the whole tone, and there's one where you raise the second finger up a half step, and one where you raise the third finger down a half step, right? And I have some tricks to remember those are the wonkier ones, but you can add an extra note. For instance, on this one, going up to the G, that's a combination of a major scale, a major triad, and a diminished triad. And those are the notes in, I'm just adding that extra note. Right? You wonder, well, why are these important? Well, that's why. All right, I'm going to run. Good to get to spend time with you guys again, and have a great week. And we'll see you next week. This is Jonathan Eder at the Piano Lesson. Bye-bye.